welcome to the Daily Obsession. Today I'm going to be speaking about Star Wars, which is controversial for some reason. I don't know why it would be so controversial to talk about and say you like a film series that has been made for the entertainment of literally every person ever. It's the most inclusive franchise to ever exist. It's supposed to be a film series that is made to be enjoyed by everyone, no matter your age, no matter your race, no matter where you grew up, no matter what you do. It's supposed to just be a fun movie, a fun series that anyone can enjoy. And yet, for some reason, people just seem to think that this series is terrible just because, well, it's not what we wanted or it's not how it's supposed to be made. Well, for several years now, I've been reviewing movies, and one thing I've learned throughout all that time is that you can't judge every movie in the same way. For instance, you wouldn't look at a horror movie and judge it in the same way as a romantic comedy. You wouldn't say, well, honestly, I thought that this romantic comedy didn't have enough scares in it to be a good movie, because that's the sort of thing you'd only say about a horror movie. There are different ways you have to grade or look at the quality of a different series. And I think the best way that you can look at whether a film is a good movie is whether it has accomplished the goal it set out to accomplish. For instance, something like Knives Out, Rian Johnson's newest film. It's an excellent movie. It switches genres, it has excellent actors, but none of that is what makes it a good movie. What makes it a good movie is he set out to tell an interesting mystery told in a different way from what normal mysteries are told through. A mystery is usually just they find a dead body and then they're trying to figure out who committed the murder. But he tells it in the complete opposite way, where you know from the beginning, or at least you think you know from the beginning, how the murder happened, who did it, and it's a bit of an escape movie to see if the murderer can escape from the police. It's extremely clever in the way that it sets a goal for itself and then hits those marks with flying colors. This could have been seen as a movie that people were confused about on why it wasn't just the standard movie. Because if they had set that as the goal for themselves and then ended up missing the marks and making a confusing movie that didn't follow that goal all the way through, people would have thought, well, this was a bad movie because it didn't follow the normal formula, and they would have completely missed the goal of the movie. And that's where I think that the problem with people thinking that Star Wars is a bad movie lies. They don't see the goal of the movie. Obviously, this isn't applying to all the Star Wars movies, as everyone, no matter whether you're a die-hard fan or a newcomer to the series, everyone likes the original three. Less like the prequels, and even less like the sequels. I cannot understand that for the life of me. I know this, for some reason, is controversial, but I love every single Star Wars movie. I've seen all of them multiple times. I love every character that's ever been in there. Well, Jar Jar's voice just does get a bit annoying, but I think we can all agree on that. It's just, I think that the goal of the Star Wars movies is just to be enjoyable. It's not meant to be an Oscar-winning, perfect movie that is shot every frame meant to bring some new emotion into your life. It's not supposed to be a philosophical work. It's not supposed to be this incredibly intricate mystery. It's just supposed to be pure, unadulterated Hollywood entertainment. And I think that's kind of what it accomplishes. Sure, it may not be a great movie in technological aspects, but if you look at all the separate components, everyone does them moderately well. The actors are pretty good. The effects are the best in the industry. Sure, the script writing has plot holes, but almost every single movie ever made has some plot hole of some kind. And even if they're big, the whole point of the movie is to see lightsabers. It's supposed to be to watch space wizards fighting each other with lightning and lasers. That's the point of watching a Star Wars movie. No one's ever said, I'm looking for a really deep and thoughtful thing to watch tonight. let me throw on Star Wars. It's supposed to be a different genre entirely from the rest of Hollywood. A lot of times you'll see a movie, and even if it's supposed to be a fun movie, something like a Quentin Tarantino movie, there will still be underlying tones of political messages and such. But with Star Wars, you end up with this wonderful story that's just supposed to be fun. There is no hidden messages aside from overthrow evil governments, but that's just part of the plot. It's just a good, fun movie. And I think that the only reason that the movies can seem bad is because the fans have really ruined it for people. I myself know several people who have almost made me feel embarrassed to enjoy the sequels to the first three, the Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, and The Force Awakens. And I can't begin to understand why I should feel embarrassed to like a movie that was created to be a fun movie. That makes no sense to me. I mean, I don't think that the fans realize how much work is put into creating these films for them so that they can just go and immediately say, oh, this was a horrible movie. I think it should be removed from canon. I hate this director. They did a horrible job. Like, I don't think they realize how much money they poured into trying to make everyone happy. The most recent film, Rise of Skywalker, was given one of the worst reviewed Star Wars movies since the second one. I believe it was given a 53 on Metacritic. But they spent $275 million trying to make this movie. That's an insane amount of money. Like, the amount of money that they're pouring into this to try to make everyone happy just goes to show how difficult it is to make everyone happy. This is supposed to be a film that makes everyone happy by just being fun. That's the most simple way to make everyone happy. I mean, if you're trying to make a movie and you're trying to make everyone enjoy it, the simplest way to do that is to avoid going overly political. It's to avoid making it too complicated. It's to avoid making it too long or too wordy. It's just to make a fun movie with great action sequences, with great effects. I mean, that's the only reason that the Fast and Furious franchise is alive today. I mean, think about it this way. The fans of Star Wars have the immense privilege of getting to be angry at what is made for them. They get a new movie every 2-3 years. They get a new video game almost every single year. They get a new TV show every couple years, every year and a half maybe. And yet they still take everything that's given to them, with very rare exceptions, and say, no, it's garbage. It shouldn't be canon. It's not well made. You realize there are so many other fandoms out there, I suppose is the term, that they have loved one series for the longest time and they get almost nothing. There are Lord of the Rings fans who haven't gotten a new show, a new game, a new movie since 2008, 2009, or whenever The Hobbits came out. There's the Avatar The Last Airbender fandom. They haven't gotten a new show in 6-7 years, and they still go about loving everything that was given to them. Well, a lot of people don't like Korra, but even then, they still love what was given to them years and years ago. The amount of fandoms out there that take what they have and are grateful for it, despite the fact that the companies have abandoned that series or the creators have moved on, the fact that they still love what they were given and are grateful that they had it and are grateful for the time that they are given with it, that's truly what it means to be a fan of a series. To love the fact that they keep getting, or that they did get, what they were given. And I think that's something that Star Wars fans should learn from other franchises. That even if what you get isn't exactly what you were hoping for, just be happy that there are more stories being told in this universe. It's truly amazing to watch a series that is so beloved just fall into the drain of fans not liking it, but still going to see it, and then they don't actually try to change anything. The fans aren't looking to change themselves, they're just looking almost for a remaster of the original three. Star Wars fans saw the first three, saw that they were perfect in their eyes, and then they didn't want anything else. And sometimes something comes along and it's so well made that they have no choice but to like it. I almost feel that The Mandalorian isn't as good as it could be. But because it's starring something that fans loved so much, which was Mandalorian culture, they immediately jumped on that and decided they loved it. It's showing that the fans aren't looking for new stories to be told. They're looking for just more on the small things that they love. The Mandalorians weren't even a huge part of the original series. There was one, two if you count the prequels. There was Boba Fett. He was in the original three. And then there was Jango Fett, his father, who was in the original, the prequels. And the fact that they made an entire show on that is only there because the fans showed a huge love for the characters and the designs that were shown and elaborated on in the Clone Wars series. It's just, I believe that the Star Wars fans just need to realize what a great thing they have going for them. There are so many different fandoms and different series that don't get any privileges that this Star Wars fan gets. And everyone gripes about the fact that Disney's ruining it and Disney bought them, so now it's just a garbage children's movie. Well, I mean, Star Wars was a children's kind of thing. Sure, the originals were a bit more violent and a bit more on the nose than a lot of films that came out in that time, but Star Wars at its heart lies in the fact that it's meant to evoke imagination and wonder from children. I mean, George Lucas himself has stated on several occasions that he sometimes loves the toys for the series more than the movies themselves, which, I'm not going to lie, probably comes from the fact that he has a lot of the royalties on the toys, but still, he has said that he loves the way that it evokes imagination in children, the way that having a lightsaber, a plastic lightsaber in their hand, just makes them feel like they're a Jedi or a Sith, running around fighting with their friends, pretending to force them back or force choke them. I mean, I myself, as a child, had a green lightsaber that just, when you whipped it, all the little plastic pieces came out to form the blade. That was the coolest thing I ever had as a kid. I would run around for hours pretending to fight with my friends, pretending we were Darth Maul versus Yoda, making the weirdest fights and matchups that no one would ever believe. But that's the point. George Lucas stated that if he could, he would allow everyone to make the stories that they wanted in the Star Wars universe. So despite the fact that Disney owns Star Wars now, despite the fact that these sequels aren't just a retelling of the originals, it should be an amazing thing that you keep getting these stories told and that you keep getting these new beautiful visuals, these new characters, and you should just love the fact that you have them. Another problem I have is that the fans aren't very consistent, I really think. When the first movie in the sequel trilogy came out, The Force Awakens, I remember I watched it, I loved it, I thought it was a very fun, very good story in the Star Wars universe. I thought Rey was a little flat, but I got to love her over time. And I remember so many people who were diehard fans of the series saying that they hated it, that they couldn't stand it because the entire movie was just a complete retelling of A New Hope. Oh, well, it's just an orphaned child living on a desert planet who ends up meeting a droid who has the one thing that can take down the Empire that rules the universe. And it was like, I see where they're coming from, but then I was like, I still love this movie. And then the next ones came out, and all of a sudden, these same fans who were criticizing The Force Awakens for being a complete retelling, a complete knockoff, were now complaining that the movies didn't take enough from the originals. I was completely dumbfounded. I was just wondering, why do you hate The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker for not being like the originals when you were just yelling at me for saying I liked The Force Awakens when it's just a complete knockoff of the original. It made me realize that Star Wars fans, or at least the ones that claim to be diehards and are the only pure fans because they only like the original three, they're just privileged brats, honestly. And I know that's a bit controversial to say, but if you can't just be happy with the fact that you have one of the greatest, most fun franchises ever made, and they keep making more for you, then you do not deserve it. This is truly a gift that you have so many wonderful stories told in your universe, that you have so many, well, great games, even though the newer ones may not be great, they're learning from their mistakes. You had Jedi Fallen Order, you have Star Wars Squadrons coming out, which looks like it's heading in the right direction. You have forced these big companies to change their ways, which is a good thing. But you also need to learn to accept what is given to you when it's given to you. Because eventually you're going to get to a point where if you end up winning and you ban all these movies, you make them not canon, you say, oh, well, these ones are terrible, then these companies may just stop making these for you altogether. And then you won't get new things. You're like a child on Christmas morning who says that, oh, I didn't want this toy, I wanted a different one. I wanted something better. I wanted something shinier. I wanted something cooler. And then eventually the parents just take those toys away. Because if you can't just look at a movie and say, I'm so happy they made this movie, it's fun, it may not be perfect, but I'm real glad that there was a lightsaber fight in there, because that's what I wanted from Star Wars, then you may end up losing the ability to just be angry at all these new movies, because there won't be any. Anyways, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. This has been The Daily Obsession. I'm Francis, your host, and thank you.